Jim Collison. We're live from Infotech 2014 here in Omaha, Nebraska. It is Wednesday. They're filling up ice over in the over there in where the drinks are served. I'm here with Shawn Bolan. We're talking from VMware or from
New Horizons.
New Horizons.
Here in Nebraska.
Oh,
yep.
Training, right?
Yes.
So you're coming at it from a training aspect.
I'm coming at it from the training aspect.
Okay, very
absolutely.
good. Some of these interviews are always interesting because I'm learning things about you as you go. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, those kinds of details.
Sure. Shawn Bolan. I am the training manager at New Horizons of Nebraska. New Horizons is the largest independent training vendor in the world. We have over 300 locations, 70 countries worldwide. We are partners with all of the major technology vendors, VMware, Microsoft, Cisco, IBM, etc. And we are in the training world, basically bringing the training to the IT folks, like with Gallup, making sure they can implement the technology.
Yeah. What are you seeing? What kind of trends are you seeing in training? Because that's especially technology training, right? Has been really an interesting environment.
What's really interesting is we really get a good pulse on where the industry is going, because obviously companies are trying to stay at least on the curve, if not ahead of the curve. The last 10 years, obviously, virtualization has been huge.
Yeah.
And the pace and the acceleration of that is something that I don't think anybody could have predicted. Going from a virtual server to virtual desktops, which is what I was talking about yesterday, now to this whole cloud infrastructure. It's really a disruptive technology that we're getting into, and it's literally changing every day. I mean, you get up and you read a new headline, it's like, wow, we're there today. How did we get here? And it really is amazing, and every technology company is leveraging that.
It's and there's some promises to desktop virtualization that are coming that I think have been hanging out there for a long time. And we first the PC and then the thin client, and now everything kind of to the cloud. I still think it's kind of struggling. You're here talking about that, so tell me a little bit about your session and how's it changing.
It really is interesting because, in fact, I started off my presentation yesterday. I was talking about the VMware Horizon V product, which is a VDI product, a virtual desktop infrastructure product, and I started off by saying VDI has been that technology that has promised to deliver so much for the past 8-9 years and has never quite gotten to where everybody thinks it is or thinks it should be. And I think it's just been a maturing of the technology. We've been able to do a virtual desktop for quite a while and do it very well. Many companies do it very well. But it's never been the virtual desktops plus the application plus any device, and we really are evolving to that space now. And not only obviously VMware, but Microsoft, Cisco, Citrix, all of these companies are now saying, well, we can actually bring you an entire suite, an entire solution now that we couldn't for the last 10 years. It's always been, well, virtual desktop is great, but
well, you could always get Windows to come up, right?
Exactly.
And they're like, okay, so now you can surf the web. Well, if there's any graphics on there, it's pretty much going to stink, right?
Absolutely.
It's not going to work well. And then, like you said with the applications, you can run. Well, okay, you can't because it's memory intensive.
It's memory intensive.
It was really designed for a desktop, a physical piece of hardware.
Exactly. And that's what's changing now. And with VMware's latest product Horizon 6, where they can couple the virtual desktop with the virtual application delivery, now we really can get to any software, any device. We can take the same piece of software and make it work on a PC, on a Mac, on an iPad, on an Android, and make that software behave like it's supposed to on an iPad. It's not taking a Windows program and, let's kind of hammer it to make it sort of work. It's literally giving the native capabilities of that platform. And so this idea of BYOD, bring your own device, we have technologies now that can actually make that a reality. So that user doesn't have to feel hamstrung. Oh, sure, I have this product. It kind of works the same way. We're now getting technologies where it does work the same way. It's getting transparent. And so it's been that evolution of technology. It's been awesome.
For sure. One of the things, I do some tech podcasting, and the guys are always, we're always looking, they're media intensive, right? This is where virtualization has always fallen down. And I think it's still falling down, to be honest with you, but I think we've got to get it better. When we talk about VMware, of course, we're talking about this being on an ESXi, right? So 5.5. This is version 6. Is it brand new? Is it just coming out?
The Horizon Suite, VMware just did the global launch of version 6 last week. They had an online global launch, the largest one in their history. The product was announced. It'll go generally available sometime this quarter. So it's literally going to be in people's hands. This is version 6. And really the big thing with version 6 has been the addition and the enhancement of the application delivery.
Okay.
The virtual desktop, we've been able to do the virtual desktop, but it's being able to present the applications to any device.
And when we talk about applications and maybe some thoughts around, the video has always really been a problem. So in the podcasting stuff that we do, I would love to virtualize a lot of the stuff, but it falls down.
It does.
If I try to stream video, if I'm trying to stream even audio in some cases, or do audio editing, I get a lot of skips, I get a lot of problems. Anything addressed in that with version 6?
It is, and mostly it's with the display protocols. You really have two different variables working in that. You've got the bandwidth. I mean, if you don't have the bandwidth, you can't create the bandwidth.
Right.
That's it.
Correct.
What the companies like VMware have been doing with their display protocols, PC over IP is their display protocol, not to get too technical on people.
No, technical would be great. I appreciate that.
What we're able to do is take that display that we're sending out to the device, whether it's a PC or an iPod, and now start to dynamically adjust that for the device and for the bandwidth. So intelligently saying, okay, this person's on a smaller display on a lower quality line, let's go ahead and throttle that. Now that means that we still can't take that super graphics intensive and push it over a slow link.
Right.
The physics just doesn't work.
Right.
But we can now start to optimize more things than we could before. Are we at the end of the rainbow? No.
Okay.
Nobody's going to say we're at the end of the rainbow, but we're making some huge strides in that direction.
Yeah, so I think for the average tech guy, which is who my audience, when we do the tech podcasting, is kind of they're more than your average home user, but they're not. And some of them, though, I think of Paul Breyer, and he'll listen to this. He's one of the guys he's actually a VM. They just have a new. It's like the Microsoft MVP for VMware.
Sure. The vExpert.
vExpert. He just became a vExpert, so he's kind of our resident VMware, and got me working on ESXi. At one point, I brought up a server. I don't have it running now. In the Microsoft space, we use Windows Server 2012 R2 Essentials, just because we all came out of the home server community, and that's kind of where it's migrated. Have you worked much with Hyper-V and comparison between, if we look like this Horizon 6 and the Hyper-V, right? Compare your own experience.
Yeah, and I've been a Microsoft trainer for 16 years, so I've watched that develop.
You're kind of like, you're the perfect, because you do both, right?
Bit of jack of all trades.
You don't have allegiances to either, even though you're wearing
I'm wearing the VMware shirt today, absolutely. But New Horizons is a partner with Microsoft, VMware, Cisco, etc.
Right.
What I really find exciting is that Microsoft has a great product with Hyper-V, without a doubt. And we now can do a good apples-to-apples comparison of Hyper-V to ESXi. And at the hypervisor level, they really are neck and neck. It's taken Microsoft a little bit longer to get there. VMware is the 800-pound gorilla in the virtualization market. They just are.
They own it, for sure.
But that competition is really spurring some fantastic development. We're now seeing where Microsoft will, edge ahead of their competitors, whether it's a Citrix or VMware, and then that's going to drive VMware to go one step back. And that's great for consumers.
Right.
Competition is the best thing ever for
consumers.
Oh,
no, it's great. Let them duke it out.
Let them duke it out.
Bring it on.
And we're going to win, both on features and on price. Microsoft's got a fantastic product with Hyper-V, especially in the 2012 R2 realm. Absolutely nailed that product. I think they've got a ways to go in the enterprise management space. VMware's still the king there, without a doubt. But they've got a fantastic product, especially for the small to medium-sized business looking to get into virtualization. It's a very attractive route because you probably already understand Windows. You're a Windows person.
Sure.
And it's a very natural progression.
It does make a lot of sense. I kind of grew up in virtualization on VirtualBox, right? And which you're probably familiar with, and now Oracle has owned that. And made the jump from VirtualBox over to ESXi for a while, and it was difficult. It was more difficult, and then began to look at the Microsoft Suite just because it was a little bit easier, and I've kind of been there for the last year. I went back to VirtualBox, and oh man, it was like pulling out a box of crayons.
It's painful sometimes.
It was different.
To go backwards,
You're like, oh wow. I used to tout that as a great, and I still think it is, for an average guy solution on a desktop in a client mode. It works great, right?
Absolutely. Stand-up VirtualBox, or whether it's VMware Workstation or any of those workstation class virtualization products, it's a great way to get started. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We do have someone in chat, and if you're watching live and you like to ask questions, right below the video window will be a chat window, and we're monitoring that as well. So if you, Randy, I see out there, if you want to ask us a question, if you want to get a question for Shawn, that is great. So with virtualization then, and we're talking about desktop virtualization, and especially in those areas of high intense media,
That's just going to get better, is what you're saying.
It's just going to get better. And what all the companies doing, and VMware is kind of a pioneer of this, what we're able to do now, let's say we've got an architectural firm, our friends over at HDR, and they're doing a lot of CAD and things like that. That's something that we would never even consider virtualizing.
Right.
I mean, it's like, nope, off the table, can't do it. Well, we have technologies now where what we can do is we can take and plant that higher end video card in the server on the back end, physically in the ESXi server, basically take the capabilities of that, virtualize it, and present it out to that virtual desktop.
That's really the key, isn't it? Is that hardware,
is
getting the hardware involved?
You still have to have hardware. And that's the thing. With any sort of virtualization, we're trying to divorce the application, the OS, from the hardware, but we still need the hardware.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we can take those big beefy graphics cards, put them in the server, and present those capabilities out to the client, we can now go to a company and say, you know what, we can virtualize that power workstation for your architects using CAD. Can we do it and send it across a slow WAN link? No, probably not, because there's not enough bandwidth. But for that person sitting in-house where we've got LAN connectivity,
what is the minimum, do you think, when we talk about internal? Because I think this is where virtualization really works best. You can't send it out the WAN. I mean, you can.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's best behind the firewall, or it's best in an infrastructure that's fast.
It's best behind the firewall.
What's minimum, do you think, for you, and what you've seen in your experience?
It really depends upon the application. If we're talking about virtualizing that CAD workstation, things like that, we're talking about LAN connectivity. I mean, we need that, gigabit LAN there. When we start talking about the average Office user who's going to carry around their iPad and things like that, we can present Microsoft Office out to them and have a wonderful experience with that. And that's where the company really has to look and say, okay, who are my users? Where are they at? What applications, what data do they need? I mean, we have to do that first, and then we can engineer a solution to it. Virtualization gives us great promise, but it's not the end-all be-all. It doesn't solve every problem. We've still got some physics we have to deal with eventually.
At the end of the day,
Exactly. But we have so many more options now than we did before. And that's what's really, I think, getting companies on board with this whole idea of mobility is we're opening doors now that used to be closed. We're opening them.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go today? So the taglines from the companies, things like that.
Yeah. A space, and I know you don't work for either one of those companies, so I'm going to ask you to speculate. This is even better because you're not like under NDA for most things, probably.
Yeah, for most things.
And I was just thinking two things I want to talk to you about. One is mobile, the other's cloud. So don't let me forget about the cloud. But on the mobile side, have you seen or thought about, today we can virtualize a desktop on a phone and take advantage of the power of the desktop, right? But it's a clunky, right?
It is.
Have we thought about or have you seen an idea of this virtualization concept, but where the front end is written for the phone, but it's absolutely using the power of the server?
Yes. And in fact, that's one of the things that VMware is taking advantage of with Horizon 6.
Okay.
What they're doing is native application presentation, which that means if I'm on my iPad or my Kindle Fire or whatever it happens to be, I'm going to have a web portal presented to me, and it's going to have my applications there. All I have to do is click the application, and it's going to launch in the native format. It's going to launch as an application.
And native format means it's going to be it's the native application on the iPhone.
On the iPhone or the iPad.
Right.
The application is obviously being rendered and running on the back end, but what we're making transparent now is that virtual desktop connection. When the user clicked on Office or whatever it happens to be, they launched a virtual desktop connection in the background. They don't know it.
Right.
All they see is the application. Right. And that's kind of the next leap that we've taken forward now. You don't have to log into your virtual desktop.
Right.
Now I've got a screen that's this big.
Right. And I'm trying to do a desktop experience on a little phone, which is just crappy.
So instead of doing that, we're taking that and shoving it all into the background, saying, okay, user, you don't have to worry about that. We're just going to give you your application. We're going to launch it in the native format on the device.
Yeah, but it's going back to the more powerful servers, right, for processing.
We're running that on the back end on the ESXi platform, et cetera.
Okay.
So that's one of the technology leaps that we've made here, which is, again, that's going to be a disruptive technology. That's going to change the equation. Yeah, because there's things as much as fast as these, they put quad-core processors and these kinds of things. It's still a 4-inch display. It is, and it's still tiny, and it's still, when you think about, you're still limited, right? Yes. And sometimes I want to push that processing back to some workhorses. Absolutely.
That, I might need to crunch some data You know, it's the Star Trek model, right?
Yes.
You know, they got these things and they're doing these complex equations. You never do them on your phone.
It's never running on the device. It's
You got to run that up in the cloud.
And there are companies now, for instance, VMware did a pilot with NC State University, and they have a thing for their students now where it's not bring your own device, it's bring any device. We don't care what device you walk in with. We can present the applications you need on that device. It doesn't matter what it is anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where we've really been aiming, because before it's been such a niche. Oh, you can do it for this, but you can't do it for that kind of thing. And so
it's the old browser problem that we had, right? Oh, it works in IE, but it didn't work in Chrome, and now the phone was the same. It's funny how those problems continue to repeat themselves, isn't it? That funny?
Absolutely.
Microsoft has made a run at the virtualization market, especially in Azure, right? And so there's a, you know, I can go now onto Microsoft Azure. They just changed the name of that. And I can virtualize. I mean, I'm running a Windows Server 2012 instance in an Azure space, kind of virtualized. And you can actually run a virtualization inside of that virtualization.
Inside of virtualization.
What is VMware? I have not heard. Are they attempting to compete in that server space at all, or is it always going to be on-prem?
They are. VMware is big into the cloud. They like to say they almost coined the term cloud way back before cloud was cool. They were talking about cloud. One of the things you see with VMware space in the cloud, Microsoft, is they're kind of taking a little bit of a different track with it, which I think is actually exciting. What Microsoft is doing with their Azure product is they're leveraging their application space so that I can stand up a virtual SQL instance in Azure and just have a virtual SQL instance. Or, for instance, New Horizons, we're an Office 365 customer. Absolutely love the fact that I don't have to worry about my Exchange servers, my SharePoint, my Link servers. You do that for me.
Taken care of. You apply the patches.
The track that VMware is taking is saying, let's leverage the virtual infrastructure that you already have, that Gallup has, that Union Pacific has, etc. Let's take that, and VMware's vision is that probably every company is going to end up in what we call a hybrid cloud, which is you're still going to have the on-prem. You're going to be going with some third party. You're going to contract with Salesforce.com or somebody like that, and then you're going to want to take some of your resources and co-locate them. And their vision is that hybrid cloud, and let's make all of that work together is where they're going. So it's kind of two different visions. We'll probably end up in the same spot, but it's a different track
eventually
to get there.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's that kind of competition and that kind of innovative thinking in different ways. That's awesome for the customer.
No, it is good.
Really
it gives you some variety. It's not everybody thinking the same.
And then you have companies out there like Amazon and Amazon Web Services. I mean, you know, you talk about the cloud presence. They're one of the 800-pound gorillas because they've got the infrastructure of Amazon behind them. Along with Horizon 6, VMware just launched DAAS, Desktop as a Service. You literally can go to VMware now and say, I want you to host my virtual desktops. Here's how many I need. Here's the specs. You run them, and it's completely in the cloud.
So they're hosting them.
They're hosting
on
them.
VMware
and then,
servers.
And of course, they'll give their partners the ability to run that type of thing. VMware bought a company called Desktone Software about a year ago, and Desktone was literally the leader in that desktop as a service, and VMware says that's a place we need to go with our cloud, and so that's just another offering that they have out there.
Is there a consumer offering for that, or is that enterprise only?
It's pretty much enterprise only at this point in time. The technology hasn't quite trickled down. In fact, in my presentation yesterday, I had a student, we got a lot of students here, which is awesome, who literally said, is this something I could use as a student? And I thought, wow, it sounds really great, but right now, we need to plug into an infrastructure. And as a standalone person, you just don't have that infrastructure. But I don't think that is too far away.
Can I stand up ESXi in Azure? Is that one of those available? I haven't looked.
I don't believe we can
it's an option in there.
ESXi in Azure.
You
get into some weird things when you start virtualizing inside of virtualization and looking into a mirror. It gets kind of crazy.
If you could do it, you know, it's all there. The listeners are probably like, "Hey, Jim, you idiot! That's like it's going to create a black hole."
Because
just thinking about it,
we'll stand up virtual Hyper-V instances inside of an ESXi environment, type of thing, and sometimes vice versa. So it's really interesting from a lab perspective. It's really interesting the things you can do with it.
Well, server virtualization has kind of changed the rules on a lot of things, and so I mean that really changed the enterprise in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And so I'm excited. I think, you know, as we move forward, although by the time we get really good desktop virtualization, mobile will have replaced the desktop for the average user probably completely. And it won't be as big of a deal as, like, you know, you and I have been thinking about that for the last 15 years. So.
Yeah, and you know, we hear these things, you know, the death of the PC, and we see the sales numbers year over year. You know, we keep selling fewer PCs and stuff like that, and I don't look at that necessarily as being a negative. Of course, if I was selling a PC, I think it's negative. it's really more about the transformation.
Right.
It's like, okay, we're selling fewer PCs, but we got to be selling more of something else.
Right.
You know, and you know,
more of these.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Where is that technology going?
Yeah.
And we are just literally a hair away from that tablet being the norm.
Right.
I mean, the fact that you and I carry around several laptops with us.
Yeah,
we're going to be the dinosaurs.
3 on the table right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was
but needed, all needed, right? I need some horsepower to be able today. I need some horsepower. It would be great. I'll be honest with you. It'd be great if I had 3 monitors.
Yeah.
And these were just desktop virtualization sessions that I brought. So, you know, before a conference, it's still not there though. I can't get the video quality that I need. I would want to bring up, you know, it'd be great just to, you know, bring these things up. Although you still have to have some horsepower, right? You still need, you know, I was over there in one of the other rooms and they've got Surface tablets out, right? Which is kind of that hybrid tablet PC, especially on the pros, right? It's a pretty good PC. Well, Shawn, we're coming down just a few minutes left on this. I didn't want to take all your time, but I want to talk to you about hardware a little bit on the gadget side. Okay. Because folks are always interested in that. What's your favorite gadget right now? I mean, what could you live without? Couldn't live without.
What could I not live without?
Yeah. What piece do you like?
I have really fallen in love with, I'm going to call it the hybrid tablet, and you know what Microsoft is doing with the Surface type device.
Yeah.
For me, just the straight up tablet. I got a Kindle Fire, which is awesome. To me, those have been a little bit too pigeonholed. You know, if I look at Apple's iPad product, they're all fantastic products. Yeah. But to me, they've been a little bit too pigeonholed. As an IT person, I still need computing power.
You do.
I need some computing power in my pocket. And I think what the vendors are doing now with, I call them a hybrid tablet. I don't know if anybody else is calling them that. That is really a PC, but I can use it like a tablet, and I can have the PC capabilities when I need it and things like that. And the fact that we can get so much computing power in such a small platform. You know, I think about when I go onto a client side or something like that, can I stand up VMware Workstation? Can I fire up a couple of VMs on that device? That's the kind of stuff I need.
Yeah.
And the hardware is just amazing that we can get that much computing power in such a small device. That's just mind-boggling. Yeah. I mean, you and I have been doing this long enough to think back to, I mean, if we thought about virtualizing a server, you know, when I'm teaching my vSphere classes, you know, I can take a running server that's sitting on this physical machine right here, I can send it across the network over to that physical machine, and it never turns off, it never misses a beat. Back in 1997, if you'd have told me you were going to do that, I'd say, you're talking Star Trek, man.
Crazy.
There's no way.
I know.
You can't take the OS away from the hardware. And today we take it for granted. I mean,
you don't
product like vMotion,
we don't even think twice.
You don't even think twice about it.
We're like, hey, just throw that on. Let's move this around. Let's migrate these over here.
No big deal.
Let's allocate some more memory. Let's give it some more hard drive space.
And the fact now with, again, whether it's Microsoft's technology or Hyper-V technology, et cetera, we're building intelligent management layers so that it literally can start doing that on its own. Oh, we see a spike here. Let's go ahead and add some more. That's one of the promises of cloud technology that people don't realize is that dynamic expansion of resources, that it literally can not only self-heal, but do some predictive sizing in a completely hands-off type scenario. That's really
ramp up and come back down and just pay for what you use.
Absolutely.
I like Azure for that. I've gotten, you know, and I think, you know, and I'm no server infrastructure guy. I'm just an average guy out there. You know, I like gadgets and this kind of stuff. And but I've really gotten turned on to Azure. It's been a pretty easy platform to use and get to know and to work with. And
absolutely. And all of the cloud technology. I mean, cloud is kind of the buzzword of the day, and so few people understand really what the implications of cloud are going to be. But with that constant connectivity, on all the time, on demand, and the fact that now we're going to be able to take that down to the desktop and the device, that all I need is connectivity. I don't care what device I have connectivity.
Right.
I have access to what I need.
Right.
That's truly exciting.
Yeah. Well, and all that stuff takes bandwidth too. That's right. You know, got to be somewhere where you can get some bandwidth. Where you can get some juice. Yep. Hey, let's talk about New Horizons real fast. So I've always known New Horizons, a lot of training. What's the most popular thing that you guys are training right now? What are people coming to you for in droves?
Virtualization has been huge.
Okay.
The Microsoft Azure products and literally what Microsoft is pushing the envelope on. They've taken their best of breed products like Exchange and Microsoft Link, Microsoft SharePoint. Those technologies are now not, are we going to run that? everybody's running.
Right.
Now.
Yeah.
And
I'm hearing
so,
SharePoint more and more.
Oh,
It's just become the de
SharePoint
facto
has just,
intranet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's gone from a what's SharePoint type of a thing
Yeah.
to absolutely everybody's running that. And Microsoft's Link technology is doing the same
Yeah.
thing. You know, it used to be, do you have IM? Okay, sure, we have IM.
Right.
Well, now we have IM, we have Presence. It's branched down to my phone. I can do calls with it. It's one of those have-to-have type of things. And the fact that, okay, you can't host those services yourself, not a problem. Office 365.
Right.
You can have it spun up in a couple of minutes and be done.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that is the amazing thing, too, about virtualization. And especially, you know, I think about my Azure spin-ups. I spin up servers. I mean, Server 2012 is literally 3 or 4 clicks.
Oh, yeah.
It's installed and ready to go.
It's done.
And you hit connect, and a desktop comes up, and you're ready to log in.
Absolutely.
You know?
And you look at a technology like an Office 365. For a small to medium-sized business, they could not afford the infrastructure and the expertise to do a SharePoint, a link, all that kind of stuff. You know, well, now for literally a couple of dollars a month per user, you get a 25 gig mailbox, you get a full SharePoint presence, a full link presence, and literally you can have it set up in an hour.
Yeah, and you can actually have them host. I mean, and you don't even have to go to their cloud. No. Right, you can stand up your own servers inside Azure and have those specific to you, and then be feeding those services in, you know, that way as well. Need them. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. There's some good. We've been using Link at Gallup now for the last year or so, and early adopters of it. The one drawback to Link is if you're going to self-host it, you've got to set up. There's a lot of infrastructure. Yeah, you got to connect. You got to get phone connections and be in the countries that you actually want to call into.
I teach some of the Link administration classes for, I'll say, the geeks who are setting it up.
Yeah,
there's a lot of infrastructure.
There is.
But again, with the cloud now, I don't necessarily have to go that route.
Right.
Like I said, New Horizons, we're a Microsoft partner, obviously, but we're an Office 365 customer.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? When we hire a new individual or something like that, infrastructure's there. I would log on to the web portal, click account, enable,
set it up,
all done. There you go.
Yeah.
Point your phone at this address, you're done.
Right. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Very cool. So. Hey, so if folks wanted to know more about New Horizons, New Horizons or New Horizon?
New Horizons with an S, www.newhorizons.com. Here in Omaha, it's omahanh.com. Newhorizons.com. You will find us there.
Very good.
300 locations worldwide.
Yeah.
Here in Omaha.
Yeah, you guys have been around forever.
We've been around forever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In some form, I got into IT in '99, and I think I've, in some form or fashion,
there was a New Horizons here in Omaha. New Horizons, what most people don't realize, is a franchise organization.
Sure.
So each branch is independently owned.
Okay.
We're very fortunate in that we're part of an ownership group that is in 8 cities. And one of the cool things we can do is tap into all of our sister centers. And with the online training, we can put someone in a live class with an instructor. The instructor's in Atlanta, students in Omaha, kind of a thing.
What kind of software do you use to host
We're using
those?
Adobe Connect as the platform now, which has kind of become the de facto. It's awesome. We've gone through a couple of different platforms. We've been using this one now for almost a year. It's smooth, it's easy.
We're going to do some virtual training as well at Gallup, and it's part of my job is to kind of figure out what we eventually
I've been doing this long enough to where I remember setting up the physical machines in the classroom and spending 6 hours on a Saturday doing that. And now with virtualization, New Horizons, we host all of our own labs in the cloud.
Right.
And so we literally have a data center with racks of servers. When a student comes in, they can literally one-click launch a lab, and not only can they have the lab in class, but we'll give it to them for 6 months after class. Continue to practice. Again, cloud hosting, one click away, and that's changed my life.
Very efficient in what it does. Yeah.
It's amazing.